Hello, my friends. Oh my goodness. I I normally have my Tuesday inhale complete before Wednesday, but I have been navigating some storms that required a lot of my attention. And so today is technically my Monday and Tuesday. So I apologize for this one being so late. It is 12:20 in the morning, but this little high performer sometimes can't go to bed until I've checked it all off. I made my list and I was like, this is getting done. And this was the thing that I wanted to be fully present for, to be able to pray and be in space, to giddy up with those high vibes. And so I have saved the best for last in my day. Now, as some of you know, I'm doing it's mirrored Bible study with my mom. She mailed me this book and said, I would love to do this with you. And I have the luxury of having space in my life right now where I can spend 2 hours every Tuesday with her over lunch. And it's been the most enriching thing. In fact, she's traveling over the next 2 weeks. And I was like, what are we going to do? Like the way that this guides you through the Bible, I mean, it's just different for me. If I pick this up, now mind you, I've got the big fat version because I need the study notes to understand. I'm a math science nerd. History and culture and context really get me kind of lost sometimes. And I got to use my girl ChatGPT to say, can you help me translate into this into my language, which is I speak the languages of high performance, neuroscience, leadership. Help me blend science and scripture. And so that always is a tool that I invite you to talk about. In fact, as I take the Bible study and prepare for this, I actually just share some of my notes that were really interesting and say, how might this apply to network marketing professionals, to leaders in this industry? And what I found most interesting about today's scripture was we were focused on John chapter 8, verses 1 through 11. Now, this was a very special and significant story, scripture. I don't know what vignette, because when I returned to church in January of 2022, it was because my daughter had said, Mom, why don't we go to church? And I gave her the full Monty. I said, honey, church has been used to condemn and control people. It has slowed the advancement of society. It has done more to divide than unite. And I don't think that is something that would make God very proud. And she looked at me so sweetly and said, can we go? In that moment, I wasn't quite sure whether to have her evaluated for special needs. I should say reevaluated because I already knew she was experiencing dyslexia. But I thought, did she comprehend what I'm talking about? Why on earth would she say she wants to go do this? And so I did, though it's hard for me to tell the ones that I love no. And so I thought, well, we were getting ready to move down away from the city and down by the barn. And so I said, I've lived in downtown Denver for over a decade, nearly two. Might be a good idea for me to make some friends because I had noticed a lot of horse people were Christians. And so I thought this could be really great networking for me to find some people who can be better role models for her. I don't know how to ride a horse. So I am always seeking to expand our family and people who can help me raise her and nurture her growth. So that's what we did. And we ended up finding an amazing church called Authentic Life. How cool is that? I thought, I love authenticity, so let's see what this is about. And that very first day, this was the sermon. It was the focus on this woman who'd committed adultery. And the pastor was so real. He talked about where was the man in all this? Last I checked, it takes two to tango. Right away, the crowd's rolling. It was fun and exciting. So seeing this again in fairly recent, right? Like was really interesting to me. First question that I want to invite you to think about was, are there condemning thoughts rolling around in your mind lately? If so, write a few of them below. Just journal them on your own. Think about how often we have these condemning thoughts. We have them so often as humans that psychologists literally have a term for them, ants, automatic negative thoughts. We are constantly wired for survival and looking for the negative. We also have a negativity bias for for our survival. And so it's important to know that that's a normal part of things, and just writing them down releases them for you. The next question was read John 8, verses 1 through 11, and write brief observations regarding these individuals and groups. So the individuals and groups present in the story were Jesus, the crowd, the scribes and Pharisees, and the woman caught in adultery. Now, get this. I started to see this and went, how often do we as network marketing professionals respond this way? So as I go through these 4 groups, I want you to think about how you run your business, what behaviors you exhibit. I focus a lot on behaviorism. It's rooted in my career as a teacher. I was always on the student intervention team. I was the one who got all the naughty kids and knew how to turn them around. And my secret was really love and care and compassion. And so every year when people would ask me to train on these things, I was like, I don't really know what I do that's so special. I mean, that was back when I was 20 years old. So that career was a long time ago, but I still remember it so vividly. And I want you to think about, how do you respond to someone who may be an initial no? No is just the first 2 letters of the words not yet, my friends. So don't get stuck there. So how do you respond when you get an initial no? How do you respond when someone's reluctant to believe in themselves and their health? How do you respond when someone wants even more data and you already know you have the best product on the planet? So I want you to think about these 4 groups and see yourself in this story. So let's start with Jesus. He responded to this woman in a way that was compassionate, wise, non-judgmental, authoritative in truth. He offered grace and then accountability, and he challenged these accusers with divine wisdom. I often think about high performance. The reason that I said yes to high performance coaching was because it was challenge oriented and future focused. We are all facing health challenges. It's everybody, everywhere you look. It might be as simple as brain fog or sleepless nights or stress. Those are very common. And it might be as significant as the disease I was blessed with, which is cancer. And so it can be anything on that continuum of brain fog to cancer and anything in between. But if we challenge people, not in a way that's aggressive or mean, but to challenge them to hold a vision of possibility. The thing that helped me change my prognosis the most was this notion or a mindset of being an exceptional patient. I came across those words in a book titled Love, Medicine, and Miracles, written by a medical doctor who had shared decades of experience. And he said the one differentiating factor with all of his patients who succeeded beyond what their prognosis forecasted was that they chose to be exceptional. How many people do you know that are waking up choosing that? I don't know many. I know for me, even I struggle. So I have to really condition myself to do that. And I'm a specialist in identity formation, behaviorism, leadership, and high performance. I can't imagine if I did not have 4 degrees and decades of experience in those areas, how I would be navigating this world. So I try to show up with that love and compassion, but to challenge people to say, this season deserves the best of you. Wouldn't you agree? What would life be like if you felt more energy? If you didn't have disease nagging? I can't tell you, knowing that I'm cleansing all of my cells and that there is one disease. Really, I love this book. I got to just share it. It wasn't on my plan, so I got to move my other stack out of the way and pull this book. This book, Never Be Sick Again. Even the back, health is a choice. You're one choice away from the healthiest version of yourself. And that one choice might be as simple as saying yes to NRF2. Now, the hard part about that is, if you're like me, you'd never heard of that. And then you hear how wonderful it is, and skepticism is your next response. So I think we need to be a little more like Jesus and offer grace first, then accountability, and to challenge them with divine wisdom, which we're going to call science as LifeVantage professionals. Then we have the way the crowd behaved. So the crowd who's witnessing this, they behaved in a way that was judgmental, reactive, and focused on enforcing rules. The observation we can make about them is they represent humanity, how easily swayed humans are, how prone to condemnation we are as human beings, and how open to correction we are when challenged. So, do you ever behave like the crowd when you're running your business? I know I do. Sometimes I can form some narratives around judgment and the rules of health. If you do this, this is what's better for you, right? I know that cleansing and detoxing my cells is better. Why aren't you doing that? Why isn't everyone doing that? All disease is cellular. That's what that book says. There is one root cause of all disease: malfunctioning cells. I remember learning, because I had to ask myself, why on earth did I get cancer? Like, how did this happen? No one in my family has it. I don't have the genetic markers for it. This is bizarre. And I learned that everyone has cancer cells in their body. It just takes the perfect storm to make those cells malfunction. Next, we have the scribes and the Pharisees. These individuals were legalistic, critical, and manipulative. The observation we could make if we were watching them would be that they're trapping others with their rules. And this group reveals to us the dangers of rigid thinking without compassion. For me, it's rare that I go to that place, but occasionally I do this, and I usually do it with myself. I do it by saying, success requires you to be up at 5 a.m. and work until midnight every single day. Truth be told, the only reason I'm up so late tonight is because I gave myself the gift of a nap today. I actually was so exhausted over the stress of things that had transpired over the last 3 days that I took almost a 2-hour nap. I needed it. And so I gifted that to myself. But you bet your bottom dollar that I had a narrative in my head saying, this isn't how winners are made. And then as I'm working late into the night, I have to worry about what other people think. I don't want my team to think they have to work at midnight. Why am I working at midnight? So I want to just disclose fully, be in rhythm and harmony with what your body needs. That's the beauty of this business. We get to work it when we want. So let's do that. And then we have the fourth individual in the story, and that's the woman that was caught in adultery. She showed up as very vulnerable and fearful. She's being publicly exposed. And our observation of this woman could be that it's showing humanity's need for mercy and grace. This woman experiences both condemnation and forgiveness and the restoring of her dignity. How often do you know people who are facing a health situation who are condemning themselves for the choices they made? I did and still sometimes do that. When I get in that ultra high performance mode and I'm in that crush it, one of my friends, Stefan, used to call it my beast mode. I have that wired in me. And there are times where I condemn myself for being wound too tight, for being too type A. Because I was told by I have a very large medical team of consultants and different people that I've hired along this journey. And one of them said, cancer has a personality type. Can you guess what it is? And I went, type A? She said, yeah. She also said the root emotion underneath cancer. Can you guess it? I thought, I have no idea. I knew it wasn't probably excitement. And I spend most of my time pretty excited about things. And so I'm kind of trying to guess. I'm thinking of Brene Brown's 87 emotions and the research she did and how she taught us that most people feel happy, sad, or angry. Those were the 3 that most people in her research could actually count or name. And so I was like, I don't know, maybe sadness or anger was my guess. And she said, yeah, anger. And my first response was defensiveness. I'm not angry. Then I realized, oh, I wasn't angry. I was pissed about some things. And so I had to learn about emotional intelligence and healing. And so I think about the people that we serve in this business and how they may be condemning themselves. And they may need us to hold space gently for them. And the beauty is, that's the future of business. That these old bro cultures are fading and crumbling. They're not effective in business anymore. And so it's really important, I think, for us to examine these kinds of behaviors and think about our businesses. So here's a few leadership takeaways. Step 1, or point one, I shouldn't say step one, these aren't steps, but what I bulleted in my notes. Number one, lead without condemnation. Empower people. People are naturally going to make mistakes. They're going to miss goals. They're going to eat foods that aren't healthy for them. They're going to skip workouts. They're going to put others before themselves. That's human. So be like Jesus and offer encouragement first. Don't shame. Empower people. Help them stay motivated because fear blocks growth. We're helping people grow healthy lives, healthy families, healthy mentally. I think that's so big. Number two in my notes, again, this is not step by step. It's just some key takeaways that translate John 8, 1 through 11 into leadership for multi-level marketing professionals. Number one, lead without condemnation, empower people. Number two, slow down before you speak. In this, I don't know if these are parables or stories. I don't know how to speak properly about that. However, Jesus took a moment to write in the dirt. And in this Bible study, it was so amazing because it asked us to consider specifically his pace, his posture, and his words. He always paused before responding. So slow down before you speak. Strategize with wisdom. The answers are in you in how to run this business, by the way. I think that's really important. Sometimes we think wisdom is something that's out there. One more class, one more product training. And it's like, all we have to do is be still and know that there is a God guiding us through this work. I see it and feel it every time I'm with professionals through LifeVantage. So his pause reminds us to respond intentionally, not reactively. Calm, thoughtful guidance is going to build trust and confidence in your customer. And they're going to appreciate that. You don't have to have all the answers. You can say, I want to point you in the direction of a friend of mine who would love to hop on a call with us right now and talk about this. Or I want to share one more resource with you. Or I was thinking about you and wanted to offer a prayer. That's something that really works well in my business. And that's because I love prayer. Share something you love with your customers and prospects. And the third and final point for today is call people higher with love and truth. Inspire that transformation. Network marketing isn't about selling. It's about transforming lives and creating opportunities for people. That's what's so exciting about this business. And so we can combine our high standard that we're holding ourselves to and the guidance that we're offering to these products with a belief in human potential. We have to believe in people again. And I think that's really important because great leaders inspire rather than intimidate. And it's an inspired leader that cultivates loyalty, customer retention, and momentum. So with that, your core takeaway is that your leadership mirrors Christ's leadership. Meet people where they are, guide them with grace, and inspire them to step into their best selves. Trust and encouragement always outperform pressure and fear. And I need that lesson not just for my customers, but for myself, to trust in God and encourage myself, my people. I tune in to everything I can get my hands on every Tuesday at 8, every Wednesday at 9, every Sunday at 8, because I know that the more connection points I have to the people of LifeVantage, to the leaders in our amazing organization, the more connection points I have, the more I'm likely to stay in alignment with the best and highest version of myself, to get in that trust and encouragement over pressure and fear. Pressure and fear is where the world will want you to go, especially if you tune into anything outside of the walls of your home. Seems like the minute I step out that door, I'm like, woo, unpredictability, uncertainty everywhere. And it naturally raises anxiety and worry and fear. But what do we know? This is my scripture that my daughter and I are hanging on to by a thread after this weekend. God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and sound mind. And with that, I want to invite you into my Substack, which is the space on Tuesdays where I post my prayers. It is my favorite thing to do is to pray and to write. My process is a little bit unique. I like to speak my prayers and then I transcribe them, and I use prayer requests as a form of Bible study. I'll ask, look into guides and reference books about what does the Bible say about whatever the need is that's presented to me. And it's a really fun choose your own adventure for me. And it's a way that is a part of my own healing journey after navigating a difficult cancer experience and having to plan for my death and trying to make sense of this life that I've now been gifted. So, my friends, that's all for today. I'm so sorry this is so incredibly late. But as I mentioned, I got another nap today and I'm highly activated. So it is beautiful to have your body working in sync with you, in rhythm with you. And I would love to hear what resonates with you from John 8, 1 through 11. I got to figure out how to end this thing. This is my third one. So I am loving translating the Bible into the language of network marketing leadership. It's pretty fun little challenge for me each week. Thank you for spending time with me. I'm Dr. J, sending you loads of love, light, and high vibrations. Mwah!